All right, it's Monday morning. I'm getting ready to go on a train trip. Me and my young grandson are going to take the train from New Orleans to Mobile, and then we're going to, take a tour of the battleship and the submarine, and then ride the train back. I had promised him for quite a while now I would take him on a train trip, and so today is the day. When I was young, about 6 years old, my brother was 4 years old, and we went to visit my grandpa. And my grandpa gave me a dime and gave my brother a nickel. Well, I wanted the nickel. I was upset because my brother's coin was bigger than my coin. Well, my grandpa dug around. He couldn't find another nickel, but he found another dime. So he said, how about if I just give you both a dime? And by all means, that wasn't going to work for me because I wanted that nickel. I wanted that bigger coin. Well, so he said, okay, well, he took my brother's nickel, gave it to me, and took my dime, gave it to my brother. Of course, my brother was 4 years old. He didn't really know what was going on anyway. So we got to the store, and I found out that the nickel, even though it was bigger in size, did not buy as much candy as the dime. Mark chapter 12, verses 41 through 44. Jesus and the disciples are in the temple. They're watching people put in the offerings at the temple, and the rich folks, the wealthy folks, are putting in large sums of money. And a widow comes up, and she puts in 2 small copper coins. Jesus tells his disciples, he says, the widow has put in more than the rich people. The widow's offering is more than the wealthy offering. And then he explains it like this. He says, the wealthy have put in a portion of their abundance. You might say they just put in a portion of their excess. But the widow has put in a contribution of her poverty, a contribution out of her poverty. You might ask, well, how can you say that the 2 copper coins were really more valuable as an offering than the large sums of money that the wealthy were putting in? Well, if you think that the design of offerings to God is set up to take care of the expenses of the temple and the structure and the system of the temple, well, then you would say that the larger sums of money would be a bigger offering. But if from the beginning offerings were designed to honor God, well, then now we can see that maybe the widow's 2 coins might honor God more than the wealthy just giving a portion of their excess. If the offering is to honor God, you have to evaluate it differently. If the offering is to pay expenses at the temple, well, then you look at it as the world looks at it. But if the offering is a way in which we demonstrate to God how much we honor God, well, now the offerings are evaluated in a different light. I want to bring up something right now that's often, I think, overlooked, but I think it's important. Number one is the widow believed it was worth all the effort and the trouble to go to the temple to put in her 2 copper coins. You and I could probably say, well, we just don't really have anything that's worth going to the trouble to take to God. She could have said, well, you know what? I don't need to go over there, big crowd of people. I'll have to get there and stand in line and then work my way up there and put it in. And then, heck, they might even make fun of me when I do it. She could have said, well, these 2 little copper coins aren't going to make a difference. But if she was doing it to bring honor to God and not pay expenses at the temple, then she could say, my 2 coins are valuable because my 2 coins are going to honor God. You and I may think we don't have anything to offer God. But I say that's not the right way to look at it. If you're poor, if you're in poverty, you have an opportunity to actually provide an offering that is more valuable than the biggest offerings that are given. Out of your poverty, you can offer God something that honors God more than those who give out of their excess. Don't believe that it's not worth bringing your small offering to God, because your offering is not designed just to pay expenses at the church. Your small offering is brought to the church to honor God. Your presence is even an offering that can honor God. Just to go to the trouble to get up and come to church, that's a way to honor God. Taking time each day in devotion and prayer, that's what you can honor God. These small little offerings bring great honor, much more so than those who give out of their abundance. I want to tell you a story. Over my career, I have served quite a few small rural churches. And several of these churches had the same history. A family, years ago, a single family donated the land to build the church on, and then paid for all the material to build the church. So in reality, a family provided the land and then built the church. And then when we have our little anniversary, fellowship time, and, where we get together and have a little celebration, each year, kind of celebrating the day that the church opened and things, we'd always say something nice about the family, and hopefully there'd be somebody from the family there. And there was always a plaque somewhere, saying that the family donated the land and built the building and whatever. But you know what else I found in those churches? I found people that would get up on cold winter Sunday mornings, go to the church early, and make sure that the heater was working and that the heat was on, so that when people got there to worship, it would be comfortable. I saw people who dedicated years and years to teaching Sunday school. I saw special people who took an interest in the teenagers and high schoolers, tried to help them make their way through tough decisions and the pressure that comes from being that age. I saw people who kept that building clean. I saw people who mowed the grass. I saw people who, after each dinner and supper that we would have, they wouldn't leave until everything was picked up and everything was spotless. You know what else I saw? I saw people go out from that church and go sit in homes with people who were facing difficult times. I saw people go out from that church and go sit in hospital rooms. I saw people in that church carry coffins in and out. And in some of those rural communities, they dug the graves with shovels. I saw people in that church go out with shovels and dig graves and provide a dignified burial for those in the community. Yes, we had a plaque for the people that donated the land and the building. But there were people there that were given their 2 pennies worth every single day. Every day, every week, every year, we had people offering 2 pennies to honor God. I hope that you understand that you may not think you have much, but what you do have, you can offer that to God. and that will honor God. Out of your poverty, you can offer God 2 copper coins, and it will please God more than the huge offerings that people give out of their excess. I'll see you in church Sunday.